Hello. So now I'm gonna try to do the sixth question, factorial. So if you guys don't know what is factorial, basically you use an exclamation point to reduce how much multiplication you have to do. So if six factorial mean 1 times by 2 times by 3 times by 4 times by 5 times by 6. So that's the meaning of 6 factorial. If 7 factorial, then you add 7. So simple. By the way, for factorials you can use recursion. I know I haven't teach you about recursion because you need to need to know about methods, but it's okay. Let's try to do without recursion. So how are we gonna do without recursion? So first you you need to check which number you want to factor, right? So let's say we didn't get it from the user, we kind of hard code it. So int number is um 12. Okay, now int um factorial factorial. Okay, so I'm gonna start at 1, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna multiply the numbers with this factorial. Okay, let me show you what I meant. Okay, int I, you start at 1, doesn't matter if you start at 2 also, but let's just say you start at 1, and then you multiply until the num. So you take the factorial and you just multiply with I. Okay, am I wrong here? Oops, I forgot a C. By the way, if you guys don't know what does this mean, it basically means factorial is equal to factorial times I. Okay, so I'm getting the factorial, which is 1 at first, and then you multiply with 1, and then you multiply with 2, and then you multiply with 3, 4, 5 until 12. And let's see if we are getting the answer correctly. So just print factorial. We got the answer, but I have no idea is it correct or not. So let's just use a smaller number. Let's use 5. And if I'm not wrong, I think it's 120. And yes, we got 120. So that's all for factorial calculation. So now you get 3 numbers from the user and check the highest number. So I'm gonna do it very fast. So create scanner object and then just give 3 values. So int num1. Okay, to make it more challenging, okay, let's say I gave in a sentence. So instead of telling first 12 and then enter, and then I give 3 and then enter, and then I give 4, instead of that I'm gonna let the user to enter like this. If they enter like this, what do you think, like what do you do? It's not that hard actually. Enter a number, actually enter 3 numbers, and then int num1 is equals to se.next int, and you just do it how you usually do it. Like, it doesn't matter. Why? Because next int will loop at the space. So let's say if I try to run this num1, if I try to print this, oops, okay, let's see is it working or not. If I give 3 numbers at once, so enter 3 numbers, I give 12, 3, 4 separated by space, and then enter, and yep, it can get it from just one sentence, because the next int will only take until the space, and then it will take until the space, and then it will take the last one. Okay, so you got the 3 numbers. So what do you do now? Well, now you check. How you check? There's a lot of ways, and one of the way I do is basically take one number and just check, is it bigger than another number. So if num1 is bigger than num2, then you check again if num1 is bigger than num3. If both are correct, that means num1, let me make it bigger. Okay, num1 is the biggest. But what if num1 is bigger than num2 but is not bigger than num3? Let's say num1 is bigger than num2, so now num1 is in the leading position. But if you check num1 with num3, num3 is bigger than num1. So obviously if num3 is bigger than num1, if num3 bigger than num1, then obviously it's automatically bigger than num2 also. So if this is wrong, if num1 is not bigger than num3, then num3 is the biggest. But what if num2 is bigger than num1? Then you check, and now you check num2 with num3. And then you change this to 2. And hopefully you can understand. First you check if num1 is bigger than num2. If num1 is bigger than num2, that means you just have to check it with the third number, num3. If num3 is smaller, then num1 is the biggest. If num3 is bigger, then num3 is the biggest. But if number 2 is bigger, that means you check the num2 with the num3 now. Okay, hopefully it's not too confusing. Okay, let's try to run it. Give 100, 200 and -9. 200 is the biggest, so yep, we got the answer. And now reverse a string and number entered by the user. Okay, I'll do that in the next video.